Forward to the, okay. Welcome. It's so nice to see you guys. This is our first ever Stories and Screens. And yeah, I'm really excited to do it. Molly is going to be co-leading with me, joining
Hi.
in, sharing her wisdom, and we'll do intros in a second. So I'm so excited that you guys are here. Um, and just a little bit about me is that I've been a therapist turned personal development coach and have been doing that work for the past 30 years. I have run several personal growth book clubs over the years. I did one for a few years at Barnes and Noble. I did another one as part of my private practice offerings. And I just love the idea of finding inspiration in all kinds of places. And this is kind of a more modernized version because we aren't only going to be reading books. I'm a slow reader, so that can be really challenging for me sometimes, but we'll do podcasts. We're doing a podcast today, and we're going to do movies sometimes, TV shows sometimes, maybe even some social media posts we feel inspired by. We'll see. But really, the whole core focus is inspiration, personal growth, and how we can sort of create some user-friendly um, I don't know, toolkits for ourselves as we continue to navigate this thing called being human. So why don't we go around? And actually, before we go around, since you're co-leader, Miss Molly, why don't you jump in and just say a little bit about yourself and your interest in this, and then we'll do intros right after that. So.
Hi, I'm Molly. I am Tanya's daughter, as you know, and I live in Philly. Um, I'm really interested in this if you hear my dog howling in the background.
No.
Okay. I'm really interested in this because I'm a big mental health advocate. I'm a big believer in self-help and maintenance and doing whatever you can to be put yourself in the best position you can be in. So something I've always loved is going through books and reading them and picking out like the one line that just like means everything to me.
She's really good at that. I just want to say I've always found the ones she's chosen
Yeah.
being especially deep. So,
Mhm. Thank you. So I love doing that. So like being able to more like what you were saying, modernize it and talk about it, different things in different mediums, I think is really cool. And I'm excited about it and to be here.
yay, yay.
Yeah.
And I know I said we're doing a podcast today, but for anybody that's watching and don't know, and doesn't know which podcast we're doing We Can Do Hard Things, which is Glennon Doyle's podcast that she does with her wife Abby and her sister Amanda. And I'm a big fan. I've been listening to that one for years. And they did a podcast episode called The Best Advice We've Ever Received, which is the one we're doing today, episode 230. And I just like the idea of they've distilled it down to what they think the best advice is. And so certainly we can benefit from that, but also we can talk about what applies to us, what doesn't, what resonates for us, what doesn't, and how we feel about all those things. You gonna say
Yeah.
something,
I
Molly?
was gonna raise my hand out of a force of habit. I was gonna say is that I think we should also share later the best advice we've ever received.
I agree. I think that's a great idea, although I didn't give anybody time to prepare that. So I know
Well,
some,
I'm giving them right now
yeah.
until
So if something comes to you, because if your mind goes blank, no worries about it, but absolutely, it'd be great to hear. So just Carrie and Lori, I already know your names, but if you guys can introduce yourselves a little bit, just say where you, well, I guess you guys are obviously in the same location. So where in the world are you calling in from today? And maybe just a little something so we can get a little glimpse of who you each are. Actually, Molly, you and I should do this as well. Something that either you love, something that you're learning, or something that made you smile recently. Just a little something so we can get a flavor of what matters to you guys.
I'll go first. So we're calling in from Arkansas, Northeast Arkansas. I
Woo.
live in Indianapolis, so she lives here. This is my mom. I am like one of those lifelong learners, so I also enjoy reading and like picking out like kind of like those mantras. But I also like if I'm listening to podcasts or like music, if you will, I don't know, anything, I kind of like to pick out those like lessons. So that's what interested me in this, meeting today. Something that made me smile is my dog. My dog, she's just cute. And it's cute to see her with the people that she loves, my mom and then my dad. It's adorable. To see her spread her love to other people, it's just cute. Okay, you're next.
Well, my name's Lori. Of course, I'm Carrie's mom, and I live in Arkansas. I actually am living in the house I grew up in. So,
Ooh,
yeah. So,
wow.
yeah. So that's full circle. Come home.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it's very comforting too.
To be in that space.
Yeah, right. And my kids too. So, in the end, I like to read or hear or things that are like, oh my gosh, like an aha moment, like, like, oh gee, like you can't be better than your best, and one time someone said to me that your best might be different tomorrow, but you can always find comfort in knowing today I did my best.
Yeah.
Tomorrow might be different. That's what I like. I like to take like the challenge of each day's different.
Yeah.
Find the thing.
Find
that I
the
like.
thing in every, like the challenge in every day.
Yes, it's always going to be different.
I love that.
Repeat in real life. It's not, even, I worked in retail HR with Walmart and Kohl's. Walmart 25 years, Kohl's 17 before I retired. And and everybody's different. And that was something I like to address too, or I like that I've learned being in person all those years, is that no two people are the same. And if we were all the same, we'd be boring. But you treat people like an individual, and I feel like you learn like an individual. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and that's
helpful.
what makes me smile. My kids, anytime my kids are around, that's my life.
I love
That's
that.
me.
You too, right, Mom?
Yep.
Yes, I know. Now I'm like, oh, I need to say that. Of course, being around my kids is the best. But what I was going to say to answer the question about, I don't know, something that I love is my happy place is probably a beach. And I don't know why I'm saying probably.
It is.
My happy place is a
You
beach.
know.
And I'm going away for a retreat on Saturday for a week in Mexico. So that's sharing a little something I love that's coming up on the horizon. So, and of course, I love being with my kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
Molly. Did you hear that, Molly? She loves
I
it.
did.
I'm
So
just
the
kidding.
number one thing I love is being with my mom.
I know. I get that.
But I already said I'm in Philly. You said your happy place, so I want to say my happy place is probably like I just got diagnosed with celiac, so in my mind, a grocery
I don't know
store
that.
that's like completely gluten-free.
Oh,
Just like
Oh.
because I'm type 1 diabetic too, so just somewhere where nothing's like I can eat everything.
oh,
That would be a
love that
really happy.
idea.
It's like when we went to that smoothie shop and it was all gluten-free.
I was just thinking about that
Mhm.
smoothie shop.
And then something else that I love is I collect like Y2K and 90s vintage Betsy Johnson dresses. And it's like my favorite pastime.
I love that.
Yeah.
Hey. Aw.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. Yay.
So let us jump in. I kind of wrote a few notes with each bit of advice so I can refresh everybody's memory because I know everybody listened, but then sometimes just keeping track of what we listened to. But before we go into the little tidbits of each bit of advice that was discussed, did people overall, did you feel like it was an interesting thing to listen to or that it offered some value? Are you guys familiar with this particular podcast? So,
Yes.
No, I think it was both of our first time.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw you nodding, like overall it felt like a decent enough listen and
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we liked it.
Yeah.
There were some aha moments in there that I liked, the aha moments, and there
Ooh,
were
I love a aha
several
moment.
aha
Mhm.
moments.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, so I think maybe I'll just go through each little chunk. I did it just in sequentially, in order. So I'll go through each one, and then I'm sure, Lori, when you have your aha moments for wherever they showed up for you, please do share. So the first bit we heard was from Amanda, and Amanda was telling the story about that woman she was sitting next to at a dinner. She told the story of a woman who was asking about dairy-free desserts, and they didn't have any dairy-free desserts. And then Amanda got apologetic and offered a little people pleasy here and offered to go get her a dessert from the staff, which was funny that she offered that. But the woman was like, no sorries. First of all, it wasn't Amanda's thing to apologize for, but she was acknowledging, I think, that, how sucky that is. I mean, speaking to what Molly shared with us, probably how sucky it is to not have a choice available for you if you have certain dietary constraints. So I get
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And what she came away from it saying was she was making the decision she's making, oh, I'm sorry, for the good of the realm. Oh no, it's self-sovereignty is what the woman
Yeah,
said. I don't even remember who the woman was. I don't know if she said, but
I can't
she
remember.
said, maybe she did, I don't know, but she said it's self-sovereignty is what the woman was doing, making a choice. Nope, that's okay. They don't have the dessert available for me. I'm cool. Like I'll just carry on. And what the woman explained to Amanda was that this is how she makes certain choices for herself in her life. It's this self-sovereignty idea of I choose, and she thinks about it for the good of the realm, is one of the things she said in her language, sort of very regal. She's like, take, and really, well, I'll do a little responding first for myself. So that's just a summary of what that first bit of advice was. I know you guys listened to it. I love it because so much of the work that I do is about who are you at the core? What's in your heart? What do you need? And so I feel like it's different language, but it's very similar idea of I got to take care of myself here, and that it ultimately is for the good of the realm. And I love that somebody said, I forgot who made this point, that it doesn't really matter if the other people in the realm agree or recognize it or even notice it or care about it or want it. It doesn't matter. It's just up to you to take care of yourself. And there is some acknowledgement that it is good for the people around us when we take care of ourselves. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I that I think was maybe my favorite advice snippet in there. I actually took that advice today
Ooh.
after hearing it. I was supposed to go to my friend's house, but um I have a really, really busy weekend and I don't want to overexert myself and I wanted to take my anxiety meds, and if I take them, I can't drive. So
Mm,
I made the choice to take my anxiety meds and stay home for the good of the realm.
for the good of the
Yeah.
realm.
Good.
For the good of the realm. I know it's also cute. I feel like the
I
language
loved
is
that.
cute.
I thought it was really, really great because people don't think like that enough. And I think we all want to and know we maybe should a little more, but don't.
Mm.
Right.
But I good for you because that I'm 66 years old and I still struggle with if
Mm-hmm.
somebody said to me, a total stranger, I my dog needs to be picked up at the dog shop. I'll be like, okay, well, where is it and what time? And then I'll stress over it because I really wanted to do this podcast, but I got to go get this stranger's dog. I mean, that's how I am. So
Yeah.
I appreciated that part of it too because I feel like something I did caused 9/11. That's just how I work. Like I could have saved
Oh,
all, I should have been able to. And that's one of my things I struggle with. So
yeah.
I like that. I like what was said
Yeah.
there.
Like feeling overly responsible for other people, for the
Yeah.
world. I mean, yeah.
I
Yes.
get that too. I really do. I'm like that also. I've just been trying to move away from it, and it is like
Mm.
I am sinking in quicksand. It feels so not
Yeah.
what I'm supposed to be doing.
Well, how did you feel when you made the decision though? Were you like, yay,
I felt,
or did you stress over making the
oh, I
Good
was so stressed
question.
out. I always stress out making these decisions,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, I would have made myself miserable, even though I wanted to spend time with my friends. So I said, you can come here, like I can give you gas money. And if she
Mm.
doesn't want to, she doesn't want to.
Ooh,
But
yeah,
I am taking care of myself.
good
nice.
for
Thank
And
you.
even what you said about did you stress out? That question is a great
Mhm.
question,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But I also think that this is how those muscles get strengthened. And it's almost inevitably going to be stressful the first time you consider, oh, for the good of the realm, I'm doing this thing for
Mhm.
myself.
It was
Yeah,
scary, but it was
yeah.
good. It was
But
for the
it's,
good of the realm. I
yeah,
love that, and I'm going to say it all the time.
yeah, yeah. And will likely not
Oh,
stay as scary.
Mm.
Well, it makes me think of something I tell her all the time as soon as I heard the phrase, like, put your oxygen mask on, like the whole theory of like you need to help
For
yourself before.
sure.
Yeah.
So I've been telling her that like so many
Mm.
ways. So it's like it reminded me of just another way, like for the good of the realm.
Yeah.
Made me think of put your oxygen mask on.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
I'm
I
trying.
feel like
I'm
I
working.
cut you
I'm
off.
trying.
I feel like I cut you off before, Lori. You were saying something, and
Oh
I
no,
just cut you off again. Yeah.
no, I'm just proud of your daughter for the
Oh,
day.
Thank you.
You go, girl.
go
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ah, yeah.
It's almost like the fear of the unknown in a way. Like it's so
Mhm.
foreign to you and I to
Mhm.
that for ourselves that we'll
Yeah.
have to get used to it. But we can. So,
Yes.
We definitely can.
Yeah. Oh, I love that sort
Me
of
too.
hopeful, confident energy about
yeah.
that. And I think also to honor, like, oh, yeah, this is a place I feel like a little triggered when I choose for myself here, and to just
Mm.
breathe through that, do it anyway. Know that overall you have thought this through and understand this will serve me more to start doing these things for myself. So, dealing with that particular discomfort and not mistake it for like you taking the wrong step. You're not taking the wrong step. It makes sense,
Yeah.
but it's a
That's yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
yeah,
it does.
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
It's a good one.
Yep.
yeah. Cool, cool. All right, everybody ready to move on, or anything else anybody wants to say about that?
We're
Move
ready.
on. All right. So the next one was from Abby, and she said, "You never know how good you can be unless you try," was the advice that she was talking about. And she said a few things like continuing to show up every day and try to get those gains. And then she added this other piece, which was also to say, you can believe in something and but it also helps, and this is partly why I love this group, to be surrounded by other people that share a
Mm.
certain belief so that, together you can kind of support growth in a certain area. Not that I think any of us should depend on somebody else to be able to do what we need to be able to do for ourselves. But I love the idea of surrounding ourselves by people who kind of get it in a similar way that we get it, and we can sort of support that forward moving growth, whatever it is. And then she added this line, I think, at the end of what she was sharing, which I just love. So I wrote it down. Um, I don't think the world is going to break us. I think it's going to teach us. And I thought that was such a great distinction, because I guess she and Glennon argue about this kind of thing sometimes, or have a different
Yeah.
opinion about this particular kind of thing sometimes. And Glennon, I think, is always bracing herself for where she's going to be sort of challenged and maybe dysregulated and thrown off in some place. And Abby's much more of an optimist and all of that. So, yeah, but just that understanding of, oh, we're learning and we're growing as opposed to getting broken. I kind of love that piece of it. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
What you
I'll
guys?
go first on this one because
Okay.
like what stuck out to me was she had like that person like come whisper in her ear like that validating whatever it was like you're gonna be world I don't know something and like
Oh,
because
right.
me
The best player. Right, right.
yeah and because like she was showing up for herself but was so moving for her was just to have someone like almost reverberate that back to her which was
Mm-hmm.
like that's kind of like that was a me moment because like
Mm-hmm.
I could show up for myself every day, but having someone just reverberate it back to me in that community aspect is like it's validating of your reality, which is helpful for
Totally.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that because also we don't always see ourselves in sort of the way that other people see ourselves. Not always. We can't. I don't think we can see
yeah.
the other people
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
us. And so hearing, because I know, Carrie, you're talking about reverberating back to us, maybe something that you are feeling, but sometimes, because I think she even said what, like she wasn't necessarily having that idea for herself at first until she started to hear the idea from somebody
Yes.
else. So,
Yeah.
and not that it's all from somebody else, but they're touching on something that we're exuding. And to hear
Yeah.
how we're kind of to get ourselves reflected back to us can be such a helpful thing.
Mm-hmm. It is. And it like to me sometimes it'll help me like boost my like confidence to be like, oh, I am showing up in that way that I am meaning to show up. Like that it
Yeah,
like I am doing what I want to be doing, so it makes me more confident to keep on like getting out
right,
there. Like,
right.
okay, I am showing up in that authentic way, right? They are seeing that authentic self. So I'm just gonna cool. Keep
Yeah,
going with that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, love that.
But yeah,
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
thanks.
What
Good.
about you guys? Molly or Lori?
Yeah,
What was the first part of
yeah,
the
what was the first part?
because I kind of took it away from like the what Abby added, but what was
Hmm,
like the
right. You never
original?
know how good you can be unless you try. It's really about, I probably think, the way we talk ourselves out of things, right? I'm not
Mm.
going to be good at it. I don't know what
Yeah.
I'm doing. How am I going to do this thing? And really, you don't know. I mean, people sometimes decide that something is not going to be their talent or skill,
Yeah.
even if they like the idea of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that resonates with me in the sense that I used to go back and forth a lot between what my passion was
Mm.
or my true purpose. It's been to be a yoga teacher. It's been to sell vintage clothes. It's been to be a sociologist. It's been to be a therapist. It's been a lot of different things. But
Sure.
throughout that, when I've tried different things, I feel like sometimes people think that I moved on from it because I failed. And that was part of it ish. But most of it was really because I realized I didn't want to put in the effort it would take to succeed because this wasn't my passion. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know throughout these experiences that I can be really good at things if I try.
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I also know that it doesn't necessarily, like going on to what was said later, like look that way to everyone and how you could never see yourself the way other people see you. And I just think that's really where that resonated with me. And I also feel that I don't really want to see myself the way other people see me. That's just something else that I thought of too.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I thought about like stepping out of, I struggled with this one a lot when I was working, especially about stepping out of my comfort zone
Mm.
because how I was going to be perceived if I wasn't perfect with it.
Oh, like when you were like learning something and
Right.
kind of like messing up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, just, I mean, anything from interviewing people to, anything in this, cash office system. I did
Yeah.
just things like that that really didn't really matter, but I thought it did. So I would like to stay in my comfort zone
Yeah.
sometimes because I didn't want it how I was going to be perceived if I messed up, maybe or something. I don't know.
Totally.
It's like
No, I
fear of the
really,
unknown.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that really resonates. I mean, a few things came up when both of you guys, Molly and Lori, were talking. One is I read, and I'm going to butcher this. I always butcher different quotes, but I read this something from the guy that created Netflix, and he said something like um, that something doing something you'll know in 10 minutes by doing something whether it's right versus years of thinking about it. Totally butchering that. But the point is, and I really believe in this, is that by doing, and this is what Molly was talking about, I think, by doing, you kind of see what it feels like in your body. You see, does this really align? Does this really resonate for me as I'm doing it? Because it's very different than the idea of something. And so the meaning of what he said, though, even though I butchered it, I think is what really resonated for me is the idea of how quickly, like for years, I thought I might love doing ceramics on the wheel. For years, I would think that's so cool. I would love that. I went and took a class a couple of months ago, and guess what? I didn't love it. And I had no idea until I did it that I
You
wasn't
try.
going to have that experience that I thought I was going to have when I did it. And so I ruled it out. But it takes away some of that. Um, and I don't know that that's what I would call energetic clutter, Lori. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but
Yes.
that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
term that I've been using in my work. So energetic clutter, it's really where we put our energy and things that don't serve us and our old ideas and that kind of thing. So I wouldn't say that thinking about something you might want to do is necessarily by itself energetic clutter, but I think if you don't try it, it could become energetic clutter
Yeah.
because
Exactly.
it just sort of lingers and it's something that takes up a little bit of space
Yeah.
and you don't really know the answer until you move forward with it. So that
Yeah.
resonated with me. And then the other thing that you were saying, Lori, about being afraid to make a mistake and all of that and not do it. So I was a licensed clinical social worker for almost 30 years of the time that I've been doing this professional work. And I released that license about a year ago, partly because it was somebody else's structure, somebody else's guidelines about how I should be showing up and working. And it didn't serve me anymore. And it did become energetic clutter. And honestly, I feel like it impaired my ability to really show up fully because I was so busy trying to always be in alignment with the rules. And so it interfered with me being able to check in with myself and really come from that place of how to move forward. And so I totally that resonates with me as well. And it feels exciting to sort of be able to have fuller permission just to check in and move forward from that place.
Yeah. I
So,
think that's a great shift that you made. And I love hearing the way you talk about it. And it made me think of too, going back to what you were first saying, is how the stories that we tell ourselves can be energetic clutter and often are.
mhm,
And I think what you were saying about thinking about something versus trying it for 10 minutes.
mhm,
I think people tell themselves the stories that they're not good enough to try it for 10 minutes. And then
mhm.
that energetic clutter stops people from seeing how amazing they can be because
Yeah,
they tell themselves they can't be and they don't.
yeah, yeah. And to be fair, 10 minutes might have been a little shorter period of time than you actually need, but really, I don't think it necessarily has to be.
It
So,
doesn't have to be a
yeah,
long time. I
yeah.
knew I
Yeah.
didn't want to be a yoga teacher within the first 2 minutes of teaching my first yoga class.
Yeah.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I was studying geriatric psychology, I wanted to be like a psychologist for people who were just like in their late stages of life. Like I wanted to make things lighter. And
Mhm.
I did one job shadow, like literally maybe like a couple hours. And I was like, nope, changed my entire major. Like
Wow, yes.
total, I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah,
So like I actually like a little off track, but if my university didn't force a job shadow upon us, I may have went for years and years and years with this idea of what it actually looks like.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there really is something to be said about just trying it. Like
right.
even if
Yeah.
it's like something like a job shadow, like Molly, if you just job shadow a yoga teacher one shift, like maybe
Yeah.
that would have been the clarity you needed. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like the old folks said down here, because I was raised in the South, but almost like jump in and get your feet wet. You can always grab a towel, I mean,
Oh, I love that. That's a good
Oh, I
expression. I
love
haven't heard that one.
it.
Southern
Love that.
that's what my
phrases
dad said.
are the
so,
best. Southern phrases are so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jump in and get your feet wet. Love it.
Jump in, get
Love
your
it.
feet wet. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can always grab a
You
towel.
can always grab a towel.
Yep.
I love
Yep.
it.
And then you waste
So
all that energy wondering if you don't, like, geez.
exactly. Yeah. So, all right, cool. So then the next one, this was what Glennon talked about, and she really started in saying she had no advice. Like she just nothing felt true to her at all times, and that was sort of the struggle with her. And so she said a few things, and I'm just going to jot down what I wrote. So she said, the truest thing I know right now is sitting in a room with somebody. And I know went on to talk a little bit about this embodiment work that she's been doing and that she really doesn't know what any next step is. And so just taking it one step at a time and checking in with herself and trying to be as embodied as she could be. I think that was the advice. Maybe it's not advice she heard, but I feel like
Yes.
that's great advice. She said, "Oh, I've got nothing," but I think that's something. And she made a few points. One, she mentioned she's got a tattoo that says "Be still." And she was commenting on how, well, that's not true all the time. Sometimes maybe she does need to be still, but sometimes that's not great advice. So I think part of what she was trying to do is figuring out what's some good advice across the board. She's talked a little bit about boundaries and said if she's got too many boundaries, which she can do, she can be in an island by herself or just with a few people. And then she talked about if she doesn't have enough boundaries, then she gets and is just out there and vulnerable and being loving, then she can get bitten in the ass. So, and then she said, I'm finally smart enough to know I don't know shit.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, so really what I know is what I know uh, or want to do or feel into next. And that's the part that I thought was really helpful. And then she also said something she heard from Liz Gilbert, who is a good buddy of hers. She's the one that wrote that book, Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh.
When you take care of yourself, the universe takes care of everything else. And I just love the idea of that. And I think I am such a believer in we need to take care of ourselves and honor our hearts for everything to sort of be in alignment for us. So I do believe in that. And fully here, fully calm, aligned, and then you can respond from that place. So that really resonated for me. What about
Yeah.
what came up for you guys?
I think the older I'm getting, the more I realize I don't know anything. I completely agree with that. And I think I have such a need for control that not knowing anything is so scary. And I'm kind of, as I'm getting older, learning to release some of that control that I feel like I need and kind of learning I don't need it as much as I thought I did. And that maybe the control is knowing that I don't know how things are going to turn out. I don't always know what things mean, and that's okay.
Yeah, like control is artificial safety.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I learned, yeah, yeah. What I thought of is like not to go like super woo woo, but some people like call the universe like YOU, like universe. Like,
Uh-huh.
so like if you take care of you, like that is like only the universe. Cause like kind of people who are like really, really spiritual think that like this is like your one own universe. So in theory, if you do take care of you, you're almost altering your like reality energetically. So like I got a little bit spiritual on that. That clicked for me. And that it wasn't, and also she talking about something about like regulating your nervous system, like just showing up like hydrated, like stretched. And like that is something that I'm like, okay, if I'm feeling like nervous, I can get into like I need to do more to feel prepared. But it's like no, if I just take those 5 minutes to like breathe and stretch and drink some water, I really do feel way more prepared than anything.
Yeah.
I have to do like a little bit of education, but that
Yeah.
body, the somatic approach is really impactful.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
I I like the tattoo thing.
Mhm.
I like the tattoo part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
What did you
me,
like about that, Lori?
I'm older than all of y'all, but for me, when I was going through divorce with I had little children, and so we had to do these classes, like parenting classes and stuff. And in my mind, I knew that I was going to have to behave in front of my children because it wasn't about. It was about mine and their dad's relationship. So
Right.
anyway, I went and got a tattoo, and I got red lips tattooed on my rear end. My very first tattoo, and when we were in these mediations, and I would just like pat back here or rub back here, and
Wow,
that's
I
the
love
craziest thing.
that.
But it made me grounded, and it made
I
me realize
love
I
I
love
was my own self that nobody else had to know, but it was very comforting for me. So, and I still use it sometimes. So, yeah, so
I love that. And I mean, I think one of the things that I love, and you were saying this earlier, Lori, about how everybody's different, right? Like you just so clear, everybody's different. And I think what is such an important part of personal development growth work is figure out what's in alignment for you personally and what speaks to you personally. And I love the specificity of what you just shared with us. It's like, oh, this little thing that you do, but I
yeah,
get why that helps.
it
Yeah.
grounded me.
Yeah.
That's my, and it kept me in check. In my, they were in a program called Changing Families, and I was seeing a therapist, and I love her. Her name was Bobby Kennedy, and her husband name was Bob Kennedy. So
Oh,
they were the Kennedys. Yeah. But
that's
I
funny.
told her what I had done, and she said, "That's the greatest thing I've ever heard." She said, "I might recommend that to someone." But
Love that.
that's what grounded me to.
Yeah.
It made me feel better, and it wasn't harming anybody, and I was getting in. That's just how.
I
Uh,
love
and
that.
it just speaks to there's an infinite number of tools that we can all sort of choose for
Hmm.
Yeah.
ourselves. Like, and so get creative and what is going to have some impact. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
you may not have known it was going to be so meaningful when you
Yeah.
got it. I mean, maybe you did, but
And not to the extreme that it
yeah,
went to.
yeah,
Not it just really, yeah.
right.
Actually, my lips on my rear end were lifesaver for me in a way because I kept my cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah.
Amazing. Right. And it does
Yeah.
kind of speak to like, we've got to try certain things. So you were drawn to it. You made a decision. You did this thing. You didn't know it was going to be the thing, but it became such an important tool for you. Amazing. I
Yes.
love that.
And I stepped out of my comfort zone to go get that because
Yeah.
that wasn't something like, oh, I'm gonna go get a tattoo. It's like, oh my god. And I was like, anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. Um, Anything else for that one? No, I think we covered that one. And
Yeah.
then the next is their friend Sarah Bareilles, who is a musician, right? A singer or yeah.
Love song,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
know
sang
her
that for a
name and
talent show in fifth grade.
what's that?
I sang that song for a talent show in fifth grade.
You did?
I love
Yeah,
that,
I
Molly.
won.
I must have been there.
I
Oh,
won. It's when I was president of the class.
wow. Was I there?
You
I,
were in your
No,
you were in your
I
prime,
wasn't.
aren't you, Molly?
I was in my prime in fourth grade or fifth grade, whenever it was.
She got
I
these
actually
two
loved
big
fourth.
things. You love what?
I
Fourth
loved
grade?
fourth grade. Yeah,
Oh.
I loved fourth grade.
So Sarah told a story about getting deep into imposter syndrome when she was going to be singing a song she didn't know that well, and Carole King was there. I forget who else was there, but there were like very famous people, and she was obviously quite successful, but started to get like caught in her head of all these sort of limiting beliefs, not enough kind of ideas. And Carole King, I guess, whispered to her, get out of your own way, which was her advice, which I think is probably good for all of us because I'm sure we all get in our own way plenty of times. Yeah, so I just kind of love that reminder of sometimes we're creating problems that actually aren't there.
Right. True.
Definitely.
I do that often,
Yeah,
Oh,
often,
yeah.
often.
yeah,
Yeah, we wasted all that energy on something that wasn't necessary, I guess. Maybe like you pent up all this anxiety and stuff, and then maybe it doesn't happen, or maybe it didn't affect you the way you thought it was going to. Like,
Mm-hmm.
waste all that. I'll just pat my tattoo.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think it goes hand in hand with this control piece we were talking about, like, oh, I'm trying to control this thing. How's it going to play out? Where do I measure up? What's, like so much over analyzing that doesn't really support us in any way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
definitely. And I loved after like she's like, you know what, and I killed it and I looked cute
Yeah.
and I had my hair tucked behind my ear. And she's like, and I think she was like, and I fucking killed it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. I love that you called that out. Yeah.
I like that too. She's like, oh my God, it was so
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that was
like
great, actually, that she then did it, had the experience, and then really could feel herself,
that.
like, yeah, like I
Yeah.
I did amazing. And yeah, I love that.
Like, not only did I do it and
And
I
I
killed
killed
it,
it.
but I looked good doing it.
Yeah,
Like, I love that, like, level of, I don't want like confidence, yes, but like it just felt good in like
yeah.
an
Like
holistic
celebrating
way
herself.
almost.
Like
Yeah.
celebrating herself, to be, because I think it's a
Yeah.
tricky thing for us, especially women, to really be able to celebrate ourselves in
Yeah.
a pure way. I think there's so many, I don't know, just comparing ourselves with so
Yeah.
many
Sometimes
negative
it's
things.
almost like you can say, I'm proud of me or I'm proud of what I did. I think that helps me a lot of something. If I say something or do something and it made a difference, that made
Mhm.
me like, "Oh, girl, you go, girl."
Yeah. Proud of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Oh, you guys froze for a sec, but we heard you. So,
Okay, good. Sorry.
but I think
That
you're
damn
good. That's okay.
Arkansas.
I think you're good. And I'm assuming Molly saw it frozen as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All
Okay.
right. No biggie though. We heard you, and now you're moving. So good, good,
Yay.
good. Any other thoughts? Oh, and then the other thing, just the other quote I wrote down here, came somewhere along the way when Sarah was sharing, the more you give, the more you get. And so I just think that's an
Mm,
interesting idea because I know I often talk about getting depleted, overgiving, that kind of thing. And so
right.
that can be something that I can be more cautionary about.
Me
But
too.
love the idea of that energy when you're giving from a place of alignment, when you're expressing yourself from a place where like you are present and you're in your zone of genius and sort of it's so in alignment, then that does make sense to me that stuff comes to you from that place, from that energy. So,
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and the last thing, and I wrote more with this than anything, was
Mm.
Glennon's seventh grade teacher, and I guess she also taught
She's
Amanda as well, Tina Yellen, and she, oh, she shared a story that maybe isn't really advice focused, but I jotted it down anyway. She talked about she was thinking she would go to seminary and become a minister. And she shared this with her seventh grade teacher, who they stayed in contact. And I think are friends. And the teacher is just somebody who offers her some of her wisdom that Glennon really appreciates. But what Glennon was seeking was, oh, I just want to be leading sort of a community, and I like the idea of being in a church. And the Yellen, what's her name? Tina. Tina was saying that, well, why do you want that? Because you already are in a position, you have this church without walls. And Glennon was like, but I want this church with walls. I just kind of love getting to that place of clarity because I think the longing was there that Glennon wanted something, but what she thought she wanted, it sounds like she wasn't going to actually find it. If she had gone through seminary and got a church with walls, I don't know that that's what she was really longing for. And I think Tina had just helped her get some clarity around that. And I think sometimes it goes back maybe to some of the trying, although luckily Glenna didn't have to try it to get that clarity. Like just getting that feedback helped her get to a place of clarity, but moving down that path was part of, like, she could have stayed thinking about it forever, right? So
Not like gotten in and said I'm going.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yep.
and then the other thing that Tina left on a voicemail for them was she was talking about the intense delight that she has whenever she visited, I think in particular Glennon and Abby, probably Glennon and Abby, but ultimately the idea of whenever people love give you their time. I think Tina was talking about how much delight that gives her. And I think that gives me a lot of delight too. After losing my husband recently, he connection was something that I had very sort of automatically and easy with him. And now it's something that I realize connection matters and I need to be intentional about it. And so I don't know that everybody gravitates towards connection in that way, but I certainly feel like it's part of what helps me feel more present and alive and joyful. And so it's something that I personally gravitate towards. And I just think identifying what are the things that bring you some delight is really important. Um, and then I'll say the last thing, and then of course, want to hear from you guys, but she said something to Glennon. So Glennon is always stressing about like what she doesn't know and how much she sort of is struggling with things on the planet and how hard life is for her sometimes. And Tina said to her, please understand that there is nothing wrong with you. And Glennon added her own interpretation, which was, please stop wasting your special time on this planet thinking you are a mystery to solve when there is so much beauty to enjoy. And I think that that is kind of the crux of the work that my whole focus on energetic clutter is like that kind of focus, like I'm broken and there's something wrong with me, and staying stuck in that place is like gonna keep any of us who go to that place and sort of stay there without learning what we want and need, it's going to impair your quality of life. So anyway, I know I just summarized three different parts of it, but yeah, what resonated for you guys?
Yeah, so really with the last thing you were saying, it connects to the best advice I've ever received, if I can share that.
Yeah.
So the best advice I've ever received is from my sister's friend Amelia. I was struggling a lot in college, and my sister said, you should talk to Amelia. Like, she's dealt with some of the same things. Like, she would love to talk to you. So she told me about this conversation she was having with this man once. And this can be a triggering word, but she said, I feel like I'm crazy. Like, I feel like I'm going crazy. And he said, the mere fact that you feel like you're going crazy means you're so far from it. People that are crazy don't fear it because they're already so far gone. So you have that self-awareness, you're not.
Mm.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going crazy all the time. And then I have to remind myself, no, like you are actively working on it. You're thinking about it. You're afraid of it. It's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So that was my favorite advice I've ever received. And that connects to
Yeah.
thing too about how these thoughts can be energetic or are energetic clutter.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, what I kept telling you at one of my that we heard on the podcast was basically you're enough. Like you matter, you're enough. What was it that?
There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that. And then that triggered one time Father Kevin, who was our priest at our church, he told me one time, he said, no matter what you say or do, you're still a worthwhile person. No matter what you say or do, you're still a worthwhile person. And I always remember that. And then when she said, you're enough.
Yeah.
Yes, I gotta remember that, I gotta allow myself to say, no matter what I say or do, I'm still a worthwhile person. So.
Yeah.
And that I matter. I'm enough.
Yeah.
Gave me a little punch of energy today.
Yeah.
Her priest. That was her priest.
My priest.
Her church.
Uh-huh.
But years ago, my kids were still little. But anyway, that it stuck with me. So
Yeah, I love that.
Well, yeah, and what just came to mind is you can find inspiration in those little nuggets, right? That we're like kind of talking about anywhere, like from, I mean, you found it from like in that community from a priest, but I find it from like Lana Del Rey.
Yes.
Like, it can be like from anywhere.
But that's because we're all different.
Yeah.
My tattoo wouldn't matter to someone else.
Yeah.
Me.
Right.
And honestly, why that came up with the priest in the first place was I had read Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Ah, yeah.
That's good stuff, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe somebody else read it and didn't, but we were discussing that, and then that's how. Yeah. So
Love that.
everybody's different. So
Yeah.
And I'll go quickly.
Yeah.
I in the podcast, my favorite advice from the podcast was I don't know if they were about like they were talking about specific advice, but they're like, wow, I just realized that responsible means being able to respond. I liked that.
Yeah.
And then my favorite piece of advice actually came from you, Tanya. The let it be easy kind of theory,
Oh,
like, because
yeah.
I literally wrote it. It's on my desk because I can get in my own ways, and really, it's like I tend to complicate things for really like no apparent reason. So like, if I just let it be easy, it's like, okay, we'll just start. Well, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's easy enough.
Ah, yay. I love that. Yeah, that's been a good one for me too. Probably my best piece of advice, and I know we have to wind down, but was from Kathy. So my previous employer, Kathy Anisi, and she would ask a question that I used to be so annoyed about when she would ask me the question, but it was really helpful. But every time she asked it, I know I was so resistant to it. So it really touched on something. But it was the question, what are you making that mean about you? And what that taught me is that stuff didn't upset me unless I was buying into it too. If I was buying into it too, then it could get into, and that's the whole thing about limiting beliefs, because then we have this connection to an idea that we are making something mean something. And that comes back to sort of the narratives we give things, that idea. And so just that question and remembering that that question is something that is something to consider as we catch ourselves kind of going down some of these rabbit holes that can be really negative. So,
Yeah.
well, amazing. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was, I think, a huge success, our first meeting. It was so fun.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you for inviting. Yeah.
Yeah, so amazing. And if anybody who is watching the replay later and wants to find me, I'm Tanya Cole-Lesnick, and I have a hyphen between Cole and Lesnick, and that's my website. However, I made an easier to remember URL, Clear Energetic Clutter. So if you want to get more information, sign up for the email list, be a part of the Stories and Screens journey, that could be a great place to start. And also, I have a course on there and all kinds of things. So, would love to connect with anybody who is who this work is resonating with for anybody. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. See you guys soon. Bye.
Goodbye.